The United States' fight against inflation has been quite a journey. Finally, its inflation in March rose by the smallest amount in almost 2 years, marking a 5% on-year increase. For more on this inflation battle, we're joined by Professor Maurice Obstfeld from UC Berkeley. Welcome to the program.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here.
Thanks for joining us. Professor, let's first talk about the inflation situation in the U.S. Now, figures showing signs of easing inflation have come out, namely the March consumer prices, like I've mentioned. Is that so, Professor? Is inflation really being tamed there?
Well, there's been good news on consumer prices and also, importantly, on producer prices. But there remains tremendous strength in the labor market. And there remains momentum in the prices of core services, which make up a very large part of the CPI. So I think it is too early to declare victory over inflation, even though the recent data have been good.
Right. Figures do show that inflation is being tamed slowly but gradually for now. But fighting inflation has been also a top priority for South Korea as well, which pushed the central bank to rate hikes time after time. Now, the interest gap between South Korea and the U.S. has increased to 1.5 percentage points. That's the widest gap in 2 decades. Professor, the question is, what does this mean now? Why is it important that South Korea keeps a close eye on U.S. inflation?
Well, if inflation in the U.S. does not moderate quickly or even rises, the Fed could be led to raise interest rates more sharply and keep them higher for longer. And this would be associated with a stronger dollar and a weaker won. In turn, a weaker won would raise import prices for Korea and raise inflation in Korea, making the Bank of Korea's job more difficult.
Right. And also the upcoming summit, let's talk about that. The leaders of South Korea and the U.S. are set to meet up in D.C. next week. What outcomes can we expect from the summit in relation to stabilizing the markets? Can we possibly see a currency swap deal? I mean, do we even need one? What do you think?
The dollar-won rate has not been so unstable. It was very low for the won back in the fall. Then it strengthened. Now it's come down to a more moderate level. I don't think this is going to be a topic of conversation at all for the leaders. I think in terms of swap lines, there's no need for a swap line at the moment. We're not in a crisis situation or near it. And I think the topics are likely to focus, on security, and in terms of economics, to focus more on Korea's tech exports to China, to focus on the position of Korea's electric vehicle manufacturing with respect to U.S. subsidies.
Right. Definitely chips and semiconductor, they will be among the top of the agenda. All right. Professor Obstfeld, thank you so much for joining us this morning. We appreciate your time.
Thank you.